guys, and welcome back to the Take Back podcast with Tiffany and Brandon, where we are taking back our right to love and heal while bringing you guys authenticity and honesty for those couples that are seeking to elevate their relationships. I'm Coach Tiffany.
And I am Coach Brandon, and I am glad to be here with you today. Do you know that the amount of divorces in America are declining? Great, right? But also the amount of Americans getting married is also declining. And we wonder why, right? We always wonder why. If you take a look around America right now, you will see a lot of relationships going through it and being tested. We want to make sure that we give you guys all of the tips, the tricks, and everything that you can do to take your relationship to the next level. So, as we prepare for the take back, we thank you for joining us. And Tiffany, thank you for being my beautiful co-host today. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. A little nervous. We getting everything all situated, but I'm super happy to be able to talk about things that are passionate to me, which is healthy relationships and not only just supporting Black love, but self-love and all of the in between.
Yeah, man, that Black love is deep right now. Of course, that's always going to be a passionate topic of ours. Also, self-love, man. You got to love yourself. But I feel like love in general, I feel like love in general is powerful, and I feel like any type of love can last forever. I just truly feel as if you got to be prepared, and then you also have to be intentional about keeping that thing going. Like you said, it's not about getting married, it's about what?
Staying married.
Hey.
And we want to make sure that you guys are making the right decisions before you say I do too, because sometimes people aren't a good fit. But guess what? If we learn those things now, we can be able to afford ourselves for not having something in the future. So one of the topics that we're going to be talking about during our episodes is difficult conversations. And this one's very near and dear to us because we've had difficult conversations through our relationships. People that have known us throughout the years know that we've separated twice. First, at the beginning of our relationship, and then one time after what happened to our daughter after we experienced a tragedy. But we had to have those difficult conversations to be able to get where we are today. And the part that actually helped us was that we actually were willing to have those conversations. So we want to be able to help you guys start those conversations if needed, and know when to be able to alert yourself when those conversations are needed as well.
Yeah, I remember for the longest of time, we just didn't want to rock the boat. A lot of times we would just hold things on the inside. We would start having some type of anger, some resentment, some horrible feelings about each other. And it was something that we really did have to mature, and we had to make it intentional to, although I feel uncomfortable and I don't like you right now, it's very important for us to have this conversation. And I'm just glad that we matured to get to this point to where we're able to have these conversations, where we're able to get through whatever the issue is, and then we're able to move on to the next thing.
Yeah. And then even on top of it, it's better to be able to not have that type of stress on ourselves, because there was a point in time where we did not have those difficult conversations, like you said, and it could have really cost us our relationship. And once we realized that those difficult conversations needed to happen, we realized that our hurt towards each other, or our resentment towards each other, was just because of misunderstandings. If we would have talked about it at that time, we could have really helped ourselves go to the next level. So we want to be able to help you guys as well.
Yeah, this is a very important topic, I think, because I feel like it can make or break a relationship. Not just that, a difficult conversation can make it to where you don't have to suffer for too long. And sometimes we suffer in the dark, or we suffer in silence, and we start acting different in a relationship. And then one thing we want to do is we want to try to give you guys just some information so that if there is something that is going on in your relationship, and although you don't want to talk about it, we want to give you some tips to be able to have that conversation to the point to where it's not going to stress you out or your partner out to the point to where you guys are going to just end everything. A lot of times, difficult conversations, they can have a bad conclusion, and you would think that it's that immediately. But I truly believe, and I know from experience, that if you can just get through that point in time, you get through that uncomfortable conversations, that there's a lot of healing that takes place after it, and it happens a lot quicker.
Yeah. And also to even think about it, it's not even just within relationships. People have difficult conversations or have a hard time with difficult conversations within the workplace. They have difficult conversations with their children. You have difficult conversations with your family members. So we want to be able to help you be able to identify those things, because one of the things that was detrimental to our relationship at a point, or could have been, was when we needed to have difficult conversations with our family members based on our relationships, and we decided not to do that, which caused a hindrance in our relationship at a point. But thank God we were able to get through. So, like I said,
Right.
we want to be able to help in any way we can.
So before we break this thing down, let's talk about real quick, what's some of the consequences of not having the difficult conversation, Tiff? What's some of the consequences for not having that conversation?
Well, when you think about it, not just even just breaking up, but this can be able to cause miscommunication within the relationship. This can cause a person to feel unworthy. This can cause a person to feel like the other partner doesn't trust them. This can cause an issue to where they completely decide to dissolve the relationship, all because of a miscommunication, instead of sitting down and having those hard talks and saying, hey, I'm not happy with this right now, or I'm not happy with this situation. But if you don't have those conversations, it's like, I'm not happy with you. Or a person can overthink and take that to a completely new level.
Yeah,
How
I
about you?
love. Yeah, I love that you said that. I feel as if for me, I feel like the when you don't have the uncomfortable conversation, it's like you don't care, right? It's
Right.
like you don't care enough to go through this uncomfortable situation together in a relationship so that we can fix this. Like, of course, like with all relationships, you're gonna have issues. And then we always got those things in the back of our mind that we always want to say. But I'm gonna be honest with you. Sometimes when you hold back from saying those things, they come back to hunt you in the end. Because if you don't say anything now, it's just gonna be a problem in the future. And if you are feeling discomfort now, you definitely gonna feel the discomfort later. Matter of fact, it's gonna be times two because you had an opportunity to do something about it and you didn't do it, and now you're going through the suffering process.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too. We also have to think about personality types as well, because you could be dealing with one person in the relationship that's more of a high D, that dominant, assertive type. And then you could be dealing with someone on the other end that's a high S, that's more of that supportive, more nurturer, the more harmonizer. And the harmonizer is really not going to express what they want to say. They're not going to be that person that says, I'm going to outright just say how I feel in this moment. They're going to take a step back and pick and choose their battles. But you do have it where you have those assertive types, or even a high I where they're very emotional, and they're going to want to say what they feel right then and there, which could ultimately hurt your situation. So you need to know and find that balance of when and where it's time to pick those conversations. And that's one of the things that is going to be a part of the topic today, is how to know and identify when to have those difficult conversations.
Yeah, I love that you said that some people they just do not like conflict. And I'm one of those people. Super high S, I'm a dove.
Right.
I do not like conflict. I want peace at all times. I want to have fun at all times. But there's a times where you do have to speak up for yourself and you do have to create conflict or you will be the victim. So if there is someone out there who avoids conflict often, chances are you're not having the conversations that you need to have. One thing I admire about people from the East Coast in New York is, man, they so blunt, they so straightforward. Like they'll tell you something to your face and make you feel so uncomfortable, but they feel like they did you a favor by saying it. And a lot of times, man, I'm telling you, people do need
Right.
to hear those things. So you think about it. I always ask people, how do you know if you are a person who is avoiding difficult conversations? You could easily figure that out by asking yourself this question right here. Is there a conversation that you have been putting off? So, Tiffany, is there a conversation that you've been putting off? That you've been putting off?
Me, no, because I'm a high I. I am that emotional type, but I'm also a high C, so I'm a parrot and I'm an owl. So I'm going to naturally come and ask you the questions that I need to have answered because I know me harboring that inside when I once did, it caused me a lot of stress, which caused me anxiety. I ended up having a mild stroke because I was not expressing myself. And it's something that I decided that I'm going to take back for myself. I'm going to take back my independence and say, hey, I'm going to let you know, but I'm going to be cautious of your verbal cues and your nonverbal cues. I'm going to pay attention to if you're going to be fidgety in your seat or if you're going to be tapping your toes or if you're going to be making sure that you tapping your head or something. I'm going to pay attention to those things to where if I know I'm making you uncomfortable, I will express, okay, I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable. I'm just trying to tell you how I feel. The difference is people take what people feel as fact, and that's not how it should go, but that's what we are. We are human beings and we are emotional creatures, and we are the people that make sure that we put out, or especially if we feel like we have to defend ourselves. So if I feel like I'm having a conversation that I need to be that needs to be put off, I'm going to make sure that I say, hey, one thing that we have is a wiffle, and that is what I feel like expressing. So, and we've developed that over the years. Of course, we found it through a workplace, and we decided to incorporate it into our personal lives, and it's actually worked very effectively because if it doesn't matter when we are seeing something, let's say I come into the kitchen or into the living room, and I'm seeing Brandon is flustered or he's angry. I'm like, do you want to do a wiffle? Is it ready? Is it time to talk? So he knows that that's that safe space for us to be able to say, I'm pissed at you. You're pissing me off right now. Why are you not doing this or something? Because I've already geared myself in my mind over this time that I'm going to accept and take what he's feeling, but I'm not going to take it as fact, because there we can be able to rectify the situation versus me being defensive and saying, how dare you feel like I am not doing this, or you're mad at me about X, Y, and Z. That makes it so much easier when we're in that space and we know that that space is allotted for that time.
Yeah, I love that you said that. You really touched on a couple of things. Two things that I really wanted to point out was like awareness. Like people must be aware of their situation. They must be aware of the people that are included in that situation. They must be aware of their personality and how they behave. You got to be aware. So you think about a lot of times when we have a difficult conversation, we're afraid of that other person's reaction. And the way you just said it, if we create a safe zone and a safe place for us to be able to say what we gotta say, even if it don't come out right, I
Right.
sometimes I be having to tell you, Tiffany, like, look, this ain't gonna come out right, but just listen. It's
Right.
just let me try to express myself. And it's awareness. And if I don't say it right, don't make me feel bad. Don't look at me like you stupid. Like, nah, just know that I'm in my emotions and I'm in my feelings, and I just listen to what I'm saying and hear me out. Another thing I think that is very, very important during that time is being that it's a safe zone and a safe place in a wiffle. You really have to not take anything personal at that time. And I
Right.
truly feel like a lot of times people take things personal when people talk about their feelings, and you shouldn't do that because although that person is expressing themselves, their feelings, and they're passionate about it, you have to realize that they have a lot more passion about that topic than maybe you do, or they may be overreacting. And as the person who is a compliment or a confident, or what they call it, a compliment. Nah, hold it. What
If
is it
they're
called?
confident in what they're saying.
No, it's like a compliment communicator, a confident
Oh,
communicator, something
competent.
like
Competent.
competent.
There we go.
Yeah, exactly. When you're a competent communicator, you just are aware of those things and you don't take things personal. You hear what a person has to say. So when I say don't take it personal, you don't take it personal either ways. A lot of times when you don't take things personal, people look at you like you're not being sensitive, or uh, you're not being open to the way I feel. But sometimes that if I attach my emotions to your emotions, then I'm gonna overreact. You think about a person that's crying because they're sad or they're mad or they're passionate about something. Sometimes it's just best for you to let that person just get what they got off their chest. Don't even pay attention to the tears. Don't pay attention to the anger. Don't pay attention to the tone of their voice. Just listen to it, right? And don't internalize it. Yeah, you got it. Even if you don't have empathy, just be aware of it, right? Because if you have too much empathy, then you're going to feel those feelings. Sometimes it's not about you, it's about them. Let them express themselves. And like I said, don't take it personal at all. So I
And
love
how
how
you,
you,
oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, so I love how you introduce them to the wiffle, and I just truly feel like it's something that everyone should take heed to, and everyone should
Yeah.
implement that into their relationship. It's a time where you get 5 to 10 minutes of a safe zone, a safe place to say whatever you gotta say, and the person on the other end is all ears. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's actually that for me, the reason why I felt like it was very effective in our relationship and still is because we understand our emotional intelligence. I understand what it is like to feel a certain way, not knowing where those feelings are coming from. Something could even happen, something as simple as you being on the phone with someone and someone taking their pain bodies and putting them on you. Now I don't understand why I'm pissed off, but I'm just pissed off. I'm just irritated, and your spouse can take it as you're upset with them. Well, what did I do? You didn't do anything. It's just one of them days. Just like Monica. Monica is one of them days I just want to be alone. Some people really have those days. I know I have them, especially around the cycle time. It's like, leave me alone. I don't know. I don't know. Your breathing is annoying me, but I don't understand why it is because I love you. But this is just what it is. So you just have to be able to pay attention to your emotional intelligence. And if you don't know how to start or where to start, we got some tips for you guys as well on that. So
Yeah, so definitely. So we'll take that into now. A lot of times when we talk to people, our clients, whether it be a team, whether it be a relationship or whatever, a lot of times people do not know where to begin. And this is this is like a true problem because if you don't know where to begin, then you don't begin. Or
exactly.
you begin in a place. That's why you got to know about communication. It's like steps to it. You can't you can't just throw out everything immediately. Sometimes you got to ease the problem in there. One thing I love about Toastmasters is like when we do a feedback, we do a sandwich technique, right? Say something good, and then say something that they can change, and then finish them with something good. It's a way of communicating. And a lot of times when you communicate like that, by you giving say something good about a person, you kind of like ease them up, right? You all right, yeah, I feel good about myself. I love the way you did that, but you can do better by doing this. Now the person is all ears. They like, oh, how can I be better? Not even realizing that you criticizing them. And then you finish it up with a compliment.
I love
It's
that.
huge to do that. Yeah, I just love that concept. And I heard this in a speech the other day. The guy was saying he learned it in Toastmasters, but he took it into his home and he started using it with his kids. He would start saying like, "Hey, honey, go clean your room," and then he'll walk in and the room would still be dirty. And he was like, "You did an amazing job. I like how you picked this up. I like how you did this." He was like, "But then you missed this part right here. Did you even see that?" And she was like, "No, Dad, I didn't see that." And he was like, "Oh, no, you got to be aware of that. And then what about this? Did you see this?" She was like, "No, I didn't see that either." He was like, "Oh, yeah, you got to do that. You got to do that too, that part too." And she was like, "Okay, Dad." Picked it all up. And then he told her how proud he was of her. And then he left with some positive affirmation. So I
Yeah.
just think it's the best way to communicate. I think it's a great way for me to improve my communication. So, because as we still doing this podcast, there's still some work that I'm doing within myself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Even with like one of the great tips that I can be able to like put out there is like give an example. Here's a good example. Let's say you're with you being in a relationship. First thing I say is prepare yourself to have the conversation. Give yourself a quick talk in the mirror and say, "Hey, although I love you, honey, and I value your opinion or I value your feelings, this is your actions here cause this reaction within me." And that opens the dynamic of the conversation, which can be able to take it to a positive conclusion versus coming right at them and saying, "Oh, why'd you like that picture on Facebook?" or "Why'd you like that Instagram post?" No, although I understand you're hanging out with your friends, although I understand you have your followers, why did you feel necessary to put heart emojis under that girl's picture?
Mm,
And then you
yeah,
sit there and you make them think. That's going to change the dynamic. They're not going to feel offended. That it makes a person not feel that they're being attacked
yeah,
versus give me a chance to think about it. Give me a chance to really analyze my situation. And you'll know when you're getting fed BS. You'll know. You'll be able to pay attention to the verbal cues and the nonverbal cues. But first thing I want to say is pay attention to those nonverbal cues and practice first, because if you want to be able to make sure that you have a happy ending to that conclusion, what do you want to do? You want to practice. If you practice for good things, you want to be able to practice for those difficult conversations as well. I know I do. When I'm upset at Brandon, I'll say, okay, let me think about how am I going to say this. Okay, yeah, you pissed me off early. I'll take note of that in my head, and I'm going to figure out how to approach him, because approach can make or break a conversation, and honestly, it can really make or break a relationship. And so, if you
yeah,
value that relationship, take time to practice.
yeah. I like that you said practice, and practice is gonna go into as we start because there's 3 tips that we're gonna give them, and I think the third tip was actually practicing, having that practice
Oh,
in the
was
mirror.
it? See, I'm jumping the gun.
Yeah, we good. No, well, it's a strategy that you came up with, and you just do it first. But according to this, and I love what you said at the beginning of what you were saying. You were saying you have to be aware of your approach, and your approach truly does matter because your approach can shut a person down before you even get to deliver the message, right? So, how do we have the best approach, a better approach to where at least we can have the conversation? And I want to talk to y'all about a few conversation openers. So the first
Yeah.
one is is started off like this. And Tiffany, you tell me how you would react if I started off the conversation like this.
Okay.
It says, "I'd like to discuss something with you that I think will help us work together better."
That would have me at a full open mind and saying, okay, well, I'm open to that too. But that's another thing too. You got to be ready if the person's not ready for the conversation. Just because you're ready does not mean that they are. So if I'm ready for it and I can prepare for that, I'll say, okay, give me 5-10 minutes. Let me figure this out. And then yes.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that you said that. Like if they not ready to talk, don't force it on them.
Yeah.
But at least you have rehearsed it, and at least you are aware. And when
At
it
least
comes to communication, sometimes timing it matters. Like it truly does matter. Here goes another one. I think we may have different ideas about such and such. What do you think about that?
so like even one for parenting, like I think we may have different ideas about parenting right now, especially because that's one of the things that we have seen within our clients is that they have an issue of parenting, figuring out he's more assertive, I'm more gentle, he does or she doesn't want to stop breastfeeding, and I want to stop breastfeeding, I want her to stop breastfeeding, I want my bed back, things like that. This would be a great approach. We think we may have different ideas about parenting, financials, schooling, education, anything. You could really be able to use this as a filler to start that conversation and to get an open mind from them.
Yeah, I think there's something that you and I definitely should use because
I
there's plenty, like you said, there's plenty of things that we just think differently about. I don't think like you don't think like me, and then sometimes I feel like you want me to think like you, and then sometimes I gotta remind you, like, hey, I'm a human being, and my mind is different than yours, so
especially even within business.
I have a much different perspective than you may have about this situation. But then sometimes we both right. It doesn't mean that neither one of us is wrong. It's just 2 different perspectives. So I like
Yes.
that one as well.
And that's another part of a difficult conversation as well, is you got to be ready to admit when you're wrong. If you're ready to have that conversation, have your facts. A lot of like high D's, high Eagles, they're the ones that are just going to come with my problem. This is okay. Let's solve it. Like it's a problem, and I want to solve it, and here it is. but you got to be open to hearing some suggestions. You got to be open to hearing your spouse when they have a rebuttal.
Yeah. You got to know who you're dealing with. That's why it's important for you to know what your personality and your partner's
And your
personality, or
first partner.
whoever your teammate is. It's very important for you to know each other's personality so you know how to deal with one another. Here goes
Yeah.
another one, Tiff.
Okay. Yeah.
What you think about this one? When you have some time, I like to talk about it. So
That's
whatever
even
the
better.
issue is, when you have some time, I would like to talk about this.
Yeah.
What do you
So
think
that's
about that
for those,
approach?
that's great for those who are not ready to have the conversation. If you've read the room and you know that you're either having a good time or you feeling something that's heavy on your heart and they're not ready to have that talk or that discussion, this prompts them and gives them a time to think about, okay, I know I'm going to be expecting a conversation with my spouse at a certain time before the end of the day. So please prepare for it and please respect that time and also give them that time to actually have that conversation. I love it.
Yeah, it's a great, effective way to approach a situation. It's considerate. It lets the person know that the ball is in their court. Hey, this is an issue. And although it's an issue and it's making me feel uncomfortable right now, I respect you. So when you're ready to have a conversation, I'm ready to have a conversation. And then I feel like if a person comes at me like that, then I'm going to be all ears to hear what they have to say. But then it
Yeah.
also gives me an opportunity to prepare for the conversation so that I don't miss out on anything. And with some people, you do. You would think a dove will probably more than likely be the type of person who you would tell them, hey, when you get some time, I'd like to talk to you about this, because they are super emotional. Um, and if they can deal with their feelings, they'll stay in those feelings for a long time just to make sure that they get this conversation right. And I love the fact that it's preparing them, right? That opportunity to be able to prepare, to say, hey, this is what the issue is. I wasn't even thinking about it. It wasn't even that big deal to me, but because it was a big deal to you, now I'm gonna give it my attention and I'm gonna give it all of my energy.
Yeah, and you also have to think about the way that people, their thought process of way they think. The high I's and the high D's are more faster paced, and the high S's and the high C's are more slower paced. So they're going to be the one, each one, and majority of relationships have one of the two in it. So you have to think about where you want to be in that conversation and what type of atmosphere. Read the room, because the person could be under a lot of stress. So if you know their personality type and you know and identify what their love language is on top of that, you're able to see, okay, this is the right time to talk about it, or this is not. Because a high S, a dove, would say, okay, we're having a great time, I don't want to ruin it, but that's not a good thought process, because now you're putting the other person's feelings ahead of yours, and you're now saying that their feelings are more important than mine. So now I'm going to stay stressed out for the rest of the day or week or however long it takes till this conversation blows up. That's what it's going to end up doing, because a high S will end up blowing up on you, because they've harbored in so much of this emotion for so long that when it's time for them, they feel attacked, they're going to attack right back. And we want to avoid those situations. So let's have those difficult conversations. Let's make that something normal of saying, hey, I need to have this difficult conversation with you that'll last about 5 minutes, versus having a full-blown out argument that could last hours, or have somebody end up in jail, have somebody walk out, and the kids are seeing these types of things, which is not healthy for their psyche or your relationship.
Yeah. One thing I heard when you were saying that was emotional stability. If I feel as if I'm more emotionally stable than the other person, then I will hold back from having that conversation, because I know that if I say this is going to set them
Trigger.
off or trigger something exactly. And if I know that I'm gonna trigger that person, then let me try to create the safest place for us to have this conversation in private, where we don't have an audience and where we can just be clear and open about what we feel and about exactly what we're gonna say.
Yes, even if it's something as simple as making a nice, beautiful dinner. If you know you're going to have a conversation that's going to be a little tough, not break up, because our goal is not to break up. But if you know you're going to have a difficult conversation, hey, I want to sit down, I want to have a talk when the kids go to sleep. Do you mind allotting me some time, in your schedule, especially for those who are like work day in and day out and those types of things. You want to definitely prepare them for those conversations, because they could be dealing with something at work and then come home, and then now you have a difficult conversation for them. It's about reading the room, understanding your emotional intelligence, and knowing when to approach or those feelings. The reason why we don't really necessarily have an issue with that now is because I will approach the situation right away. I'll say, "Hey, what did you mean by that? Let's talk about this really quick. Let's have a quick whiffle, and we'll allot ourselves 10 minutes, and we'll put the timer on. Okay, we got 10 minutes to discuss this, and if it hasn't been resolved, then let's revisit it, and let us take a step back and analyze our thoughts, our thought process, and then we'll talk about it later on this evening."
Yeah.
So it doesn't. What it helps is, by the time it's time for us to have that conversation in the evening, we've already, it's kind of even went away, or those feelings went away. The problem is that we make temporary emotions permanent decisions. We make those decisions based off of those temporary emotions, and emotions come and go. So if you even analyze yourself and say, is this conversation even worth having? That's another thing. Is this difficult conversation even worth having? Meditate on it. Think about it. And if the answer is yes, then that's when you want to approach it. Not everything deserves a difficult conversation title, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a
It
lot of
doesn't.
sense.
Yeah.
I'll move on to the next thing. The next one is, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is not always, so this wouldn't always be the best approach. But I
Right.
say that it's a better approach, because I've tried this in the past. And if you don't want to talk, you just don't talk. So if I tell you I like to hear your
That's reading
thoughts
the room,
on,
though.
yeah, what did you say?
That's reading the room. If you could tell that I wasn't ready to have a conversation, and then let's say I'm on my phone or something. That's one of
Yeah,
the
that's
things
when it,
we
yeah,
struggle with.
that's when it usually is. It'd be like you on your phone. So I don't feel as
Yeah,
if you're doing something important at the time.
but how do you know I'm not doing something on my phone that is work related or important to me?
Yeah. I guess it's always
So
important to you, right?
yeah. Well, no, not necessarily. I'm playing my game, or I'm barely on social, but or meditating, having a quick or something. Sometimes I use those healing vibes, those healing frequencies. Like, say I got a headache, so I'll put the healing frequencies in my ear, and I'm just listening to that, and I'm like playing my game, so I can, try to keep my headache from consistently coming back. And I remember, yeah, there was a time where you've had a conversation with me, and I look at you and I give you a short answer, and you took it as I was being dismissive. So, but what did we do later? We made sure that we had a conversation later and we revisited it when it was the right time. But did I realize at that time that I was, maybe hurting your feeling or making you feel it as dismissive? I didn't. So, but once you express it to me, then I know. If we don't know, we can't grow.
Yeah. It's when you tell a person what you got a problem with it and they don't change. That's when the issues usually
Yes.
arise. It's like, hey, I got an issue with this, and it's like, hey, that's your issue. And I know we've been there before as well.
Yeah, we have. We have. Thank God we ain't. Woo.
Yeah, here goes another one. Another one. This one says, "Can we talk? I'd like to see if we might reach a better understanding about the situation." What you think about that one?
That's one of the difficult ones, especially if we've already discussed this before and no action has been taken on it. I think this would be a great opener for, if we've already discussed this problem and I don't see the results that I was expecting, or that we both agreed on, this would be a great one.
Yeah, I think this is real good with you. I think this is a good way to talk to you, because you do, like, if we make a decision or we talk about something and you're like, all right, that's what we go full fledged with. And then in my mind, I'm like, nah, maybe we had this conversation earlier and I just wasn't that in tuned or I wasn't that involved. But now that I thought about it and I've thought it out and strategically, yeah, that's not gonna work. Right?
Yeah,
Like he's
we
like,
done that
it's like,
plenty of
hey,
times.
or it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like I do something and then I'll do something else and I'll do something else. And I'm like, man, I thought that I can be hero or Superman today, but I'm exhausted. Like, hey, I'm gonna need you
Yeah,
I'm gonna need to tap you in so you can help me with this or whatever. So I just think that I like the approach. I think that with me, it's a great approach because it shows me that we're both working together to come to a conclusion. It's not like you just making the decision on your own and I think this is the best decision and this is what we're gonna go with. It's like, nah, I thought about this. This is a better decision. Let's talk about it. And it's like, okay, give me some input. And when you allow people to have input, they take ownership. And I think that's very
absolutely.
important for people to be able to work together and to be able to take
Absolutely.
ownership.
And you also don't want to pacify anyone as well. You don't want to just say what you think they want to hear and then don't do it. That's not the reason for conversations, especially if you're invested in your relationship. You want to think things through, or if you don't come to a decision or a conclusion, tell the person, give me a chance to think about it. Give me a chance to sleep on it. That's definitely what a high S and a high C is gonna want. They're gonna want to sleep on it. But with me being a high I, I'm like, all right, cool. Let's move forward with that. That's the plan of action. Let's do it. But yeah, with Brandon being the high S, he's like, I had a chance to think about it. So he has been doing really well lately of saying, let me sleep on it. Let me think about it. Because guess what? If we're having this difficult conversation right now, we're not expecting results right now. I can't have an expectation of you to make this decision right now. And I have to, because I know his style, I know that it's going to take probably to see some actual progress in it, probably a week or so, because we're going to slowly go into the new point of action, the new area. So you got to be cognizant of these things. You got to make sure that you see and identify and know these things. And if you know it, then we'll be able to grow into and develop and evolve into the relationship we really want.
Yeah, that's why it's important for you to know that person. It was like that time when with our coach Angie, when we were doing our preparation for the speech, and I've been preparing in my head for the whole week. And because you didn't see me like practicing in the mirror, you didn't see me doing, hey, how this sound? I think you thought that I wasn't practicing and I wasn't.
I thought you weren't taking it serious. Yeah, I'm like,
and
come
then
on now.
when you talk to the coach was like, well, how do you best do it? And honestly, all my life I just been like that. Like I'll study, and there's a portion of studying that I feel like, well, you got to write things down. I hate that part. So I'll do everything in my head and then I'll know everything. But in your mind, you like, you didn't see me doing nothing. And I'm like, yeah, babe, this is just how I am. Like I'll procrastinate, what you think would be procrastinating, but then I'm gonna get an A or a B. Definitely all the time. Like,
see, me, I'm more of I'm practicing in the mirror. I'm taking down notes. I'm recording myself and then playing it back and seeing how it looked. I'm all of that, but it's because we're different personality styles. We're different styles, and the way that we approach things are going to be different.
Yeah. All right. So the last one on conversation openers would be, hey, Tiffany, I really want to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think about that approach?
That keeps me open. That's the number one. That's going to open me. Thoughts? I love it. Well, I think this. What do you think about how Berlin's, how she's doing this summer? How do you think Berlin's doing in school? Yeah. Oh, I think she's doing this. I think she can improve here, do the sandwich method. I didn't realize we do that. That's the sandwich method. Like, I love how she does this. I think we can improve here, but I absolutely love where she's going here. So let's grow, so this is my favorite of all.
What I think about this one is it allows you to express yourself without having to be right. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Right.
it's just your thoughts. It's like, let me hear what your thought process. It can sound crazy. Like you could say, you know what? I think we can go to the moon today. And I'm like, hold on. How'd you get to that point? And then you
Right.
explain it, you like, man, you're right. We probably could get to the moon today. It's just good for you to hear a person's thought process or your emotions behind it. You know, sometimes I might be feeling something and you might not be feeling it, right? It's kind of like when we take the kids to mom's house. Sometimes you be like, all right, take the kids out of here so we can have our weekend. And then in the back of my mind, you know, I done had all these conversations and I'm hearing this little voice in my head that say, nah, just leave the kids here this weekend so you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about them. And in your mind, you like, nah, I want to turn up. But in my mind, I'm like, nah, you have no idea what the
Like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
you had no idea. We're gonna be
Read
worried
the
all the
room.
time. Yeah. So and what I like about this approach, and what I like about these conversation openers is it will improve communication. You think
Yeah.
it's very important for you to be able to just hear another person's perspective. I think that's just I just think that's healthy for the relationship. Even if that person thinks wrong, you know, have that conversation and think through it. Like with you, I can't just be like, no, Tiff, that's wrong. Nah, I got to talk to you. It's got to be
Yeah, I
a
don't like that kind
specific approach. Like, have you ever thought about doing it this way? And then when I approach you like that, you are more open to even try that. So
yeah,
that approach, and I think that's what it all comes down to in the beginning is your approach. You hate when I say you always. As
and
soon
you
as I say
never.
you always, you shut down. Or if I say you never, you shut down. Right? You go into that resistance that we talked
Yeah,
about
first
in the
thing it makes
last
me do, it
podcast.
makes me feel like this. It's like, oh, if I've always and I've never, then why are you with me? And it's like,
Yeah.
then you take it as, oh, you want to get a divorce. And it's like, no, I want you to think about how you're saying it. I want you to think about what the logic is behind when you say you always. That means out of 16 years, 18 years of your life, I have never done this. I've never approached it this way. It doesn't make sense. Make it make sense, you know? So, but then that can turn into something else, you know, it could turn into a whole nother conversation that you didn't even mean to have, you know? So it's like, it's about making sure that you know what your true intentions are on what you're trying to approach and decide if that battle is worth even fighting. Because there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that just is not worth it. It's
Right.
not worth it in your relationship. It's not worth the sanity. It's not worth the loss of sleep. It's not worth the stress, you know. But serious conversations deserve, or serious situations deserve serious conversations.
Right.
And we would have more loving conversations when we know that we're already tackling those difficult conversations. Some people are afraid to actually have conversations with their spouse because they're afraid that the difficult conversation will come up, or that the person will have selective hearing and not approach the situation the right way. Because like you
Yeah.
said, I shut down when I hear you always. I don't hear nothing else you say after that. I don't hear nothing else. All I hear is you always and you never. So what let's go back to that, you know? And it's like, that's not even the whole reason why I was saying it, or that was a word filler. And I didn't realize that that's my word filler. But that could cause a whole heap of a conversation that you don't even want.
Right.
So yeah, hearing, I really want to hear your thoughts on this. Will definitely open my mind, open my heart to hearing what it is that you want to say, especially if it's a difficult conversation.
Yeah. And remember that the key is not to win, right? Or not to have the best point. The
Right.
key, honestly, is to listen. I think the person who wins in this situation is the person who listens the best, and the person who gathers understanding. So I love that. I love that. So I really want to hear your thoughts on this. Now, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on these next topic.
Well, I want to hear people's thoughts on this. I have a question for the audience. I want to know, do you feel that you start off a difficult conversation the right way? Yes or no? Just take a pause and think. And if the answer is even maybe, like sometimes it's situational, it depends, then here's some tips to be able to help get you guys started.
Yeah, definitely. So 3 tips to get you guys started. I know that I'm gonna take heed to a couple of those conversation starters up there. Matter of fact, what was my favorite one? My favorite one was, when you have some time, I like to talk about it.
Yeah,
Ah,
because you're
yeah, that
high.
was my. All
You don't
right.
want to impose on no one.
So your first tip is, a successful outcome will depend on 2 things: how you are and what you say. And what that means is your demeanor, right? Your demeanor on when you say it. It really don't matter what you say if your demeanor is wrong. If your
Right.
voice is aggressive, or if you sound too weak,
Or
people are
got
not
your
gonna
hand
hear
on your
you.
hip.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
got an attitude, if you got a defense, if you got defense all over you, chances are the person on the other end is not taking in what you were saying. It's not going to be an effective conversation. You got to be aware of your body language. You got to be aware of your tonality. You got to be aware of your emotions. If you're
Right.
very emotional and you taking everything personal, it's not the time for you to add a conversation, because when you in that mindset, it's only about you. It's only
Right.
about you. And
Right.
when we having a conversation, you got to be able to hear me. You got to be able to feel me. And if you enraged and you crying and it's not the time to have a conversation. What do you think about that?
I'm 110% on board with you, because your approach is everything. If you approach the situation with a negative thought process, you're going to get a negative reaction. It's human nature. Actions cause reactions, and thoughts become things. If you are thinking negative, or I'm going to approach the situation because he felt like this or she felt like that, and I need to defend myself, you're going to get a defensive person. You're going to even approach the situation. Even if you use all of these tactics, and your approaches and your body language is wrong, if you got your hands folded, if you're swinging the neck, if you got your hands on your hips, give them an open body language. Let them know I'm open to expressing myself with you, but I'm also open to hear what you're saying and taking it in. So I love it. I love that
Yeah.
tip. Great tip.
When you like that, I'm like, man, I'm not about to waste my time with this conversation. Like you said, let this thing cool
Let it
down,
cool
and I
off.
come back. Yeah, I come back to it. No reason
We're
for
not
me to
we're
go.
not
It's it's no reason to grab the gloves, right? If it's too
right.
hot, don't grab the gloves. Just walk away from it and come back when that thing cool down. The other
Yeah.
thing is what you say. Like I said, Tiff, you always.
Words are swords. Words are swords. They can
If
hurt.
you always do this. You always do that. You never do this. You never do that. And what she say? Immediately, as soon as I say that, shut down. She completely shuts down. So why should I
If not,
even
walk
have
out the
the
room.
conversation? Yeah, are you gonna or walk out the room? So why even have a conversation if you started like that? Right? Watch what you say. You want to be respectful, but then you don't want to be a punk, right? You want to be firm in what you're saying. Know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let them know you're passionate about it, but in the same sense, be aware of their emotions and their feelings as well on how they feel about the topic. You might be bringing up something that triggers them, something that they've been dealing with since they were a children living with their mother and their father, and it has nothing to deal with you, or it has everything to do with you. Remind me of my dad or my mom when she was violent, and I hate to see you like that.
Like
Matter
she
of
said
fact,
the
I don't
same
want to see
thing.
nobody like that. Yeah.
Same
So
for the people in the back, Brandon. Come on now. Come
so it's
on.
so it's very important that you just watch what you say, be aware of what the triggers are, and if you feel it, if you know that what you're gonna say is gonna hurt someone's feelings, then it's probably best if you just don't say it. If you
Well,
saying
no,
it
there's a way to
strategically,
say it.
if you say it strategically, if like I said, if you were saying it strategically, then you got to figure out a different way of saying it. But what I'm saying is you have to be conscious of your delivery. If you are conscious of your delivery, it is going to be the differentiating factor of whether they're going to receive what you're saying or not.
Yes. And then you also are going to be able to receive that in return. If you don't want to have this conversation because you don't want to feel attacked, or you don't want a person attacking you, or you attacking that person, then if you think about it consciously, and you treat them the way that they want to be treated, you'll be able to receive that back in return.
Yeah.
People, they'll see a difference. It is, especially if you are dealing with those types of hard hard fights. Like say you have a difficult conversation, or your sweet night turned into a difficult conversation. If you start showing these effective ways of trying to change the situation, change the dynamic of it, your spouse is going to be able to know. Your partner is going to be able to know. Your boss is going to be able to know. Even if or if you're a leader in a situation, your team is going to be able to know. This helps in all relationships.
Yeah, I love that you said that. All right, let's go to the number 2. The second tip is know and return to your purpose at difficult moments. Know and return to your purpose at difficult moments. You want me to touch on that first, or you got it?
You got it. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So what this means for me is, although we having this heated conversation, this passionate conversation, this emotional conversation, we have to realize that a lot of times other things start to resurface, right? You mad and you angry, you yelled at me, but that's not what the conversation is about. It's not about you being mad or you yelling at me. It's about whatever the problem was, right? Getting back down to the problem. I see a lot of times people deflect, and this happens to us sometimes. We'll be real passionate about what we're talking about, and I'll be asking you about something, and then you'll be like, well, your tone when you said it to me, I ain't want to hear it. And it's like, all right, well, that ain't got nothing to do with what we talking about. The reason why I feel this way is because you looked over here, you said this, and now you completely become unfocused on what the purpose of the conversation was. So it's always important for you to know exactly what the focus is of that conversation. So my advice to people is, when you're getting ready to have a difficult conversation, write it down. Write down what the topic of it is, right? It's not the fact that I feel disrespected or I feel less than. The problem is that your mom said something disrespectful. And I don't want to talk like that around the kids, right? You think about something like that. Just that little one topic right there. Okay, well, why was mom talking disrespectful to the children? And then you ask and you find out that the kid said something disrespectful to your mama. The same thing they used to get slapped for. Now it's like, all right, I get it.
Right.
Right? It's like, I get it. But always remember what the purpose was, and don't let things escalate. When people let things escalate and get out of hand, when you're having a conversation and things are getting worse, things you're not listening. Matter of fact, you just throwing more fuel on the fire. That's a time where I think it's where you're supposed to stop, separate, take a walk, let things calm down, cool down, and then come back. What you want to say about this, Tiff?
Me, I take it as like think about when you're in a boxing ring. The boxers, they come out and they box and they touch gloves. They know, because at the end of it, you touching gloves to show, hey, no hard feelings. No, even if you knock me down right now, I'm still going to respect you, stand right next to you. You know what I'm saying? So even when it comes to having those difficult moments, this conversation is going nowhere. You got to know when that time is. You have to be able to also pay attention to that and stay out of your emotions, but also be consciously aware of, okay, we're not going anywhere right now. I do want to finish this conversation. I respect your feelings right now, but right now everything's going in one ear and not the other. Be transparent with your spouse, with your partner, with your boss, with your team, and let them know right now I'm not absorbing the information that you're trying to give me right now, because all I see is red. And if they say, well, why do you see red? Right now is not the time for me to be able to speak about it, because I don't want to say the wrong thing. That's actually worked out throughout our whole relationship. I learned that as a kid. My mom taught me that if I didn't know how to express it, then say, I don't know how to express it. I know I feel some way right now. I don't know why I feel this way, and I don't want to say the wrong thing to you. So I'm going to not say anything right now. And then we can revisit this. I'm willing to have the conversation, just not at this time. And that's
I hate,
always worked in our relationship.
yeah, I hate when you start having those conversations and then they get worse. That just even you discussing that and talking about that, I started feeling like, oh,
Yeah.
because I don't like confrontation. So why are we even creating even more confrontation? Like, we got
Yeah.
to do better.
Yeah. Like it's like you want to make sure that it doesn't turn into a domestic violence situation or something that the kids can hear. Definitely don't, and keep your tonality down to where you can avoid having that type of area where you can't go in and express yourself, or you
Yeah,
feel like now all we're doing is yelling,
yeah,
especially if you start yelling, especially if there's children around. You want to make sure that they don't see that. You don't know how much childhood trauma that causes for a child, even if it's one or two times, that can make or break a child. And so who is more important in the situation, you getting your point across, or making sure that you evaluate the situation so you can be able to get a healthy result for you, your family, your overall structure of your family.
yeah. It's a lot of things to take in and consider when you think about effective communication,
Yeah,
especially when it comes to difficult conversations. It,
putting in
it
the work.
yeah, you got to put the work in, and what is must, like, it's very important, and it's a must that each person is aware. Like, they
Mm-hmm.
both have to be aware, and then if for some reason you are aware and your partner is not aware, realize that you are the bigger person in this situation.
Right.
Right? I'm the bigger person right now. I'm the less emotional person right now. I'm the person that's thinking clearly. So let me just stay in my square. Let me stay, you know, let me stay with a clear foundation. Let you get off everything you got to say. And then, you know what? I heard what you had to say. I'm glad that you expressed it. Now, I don't have a response right now, because if I respond right now, I'm gonna respond emotional as well. And if I respond emotional, it's just gonna make you feel as if I'm attacking you. And that's the last thing I want you to feel, is if I'm attacking the person that I love. So, man, that was good. I like that. That's a great,
No,
great.
actually, you hit on a great point there as well. One thing with this, knowing when to return, ask yourself this question: am I talking to you within love, or am I talking to you with my ego?
Mm-hmm.
You have to decide that as well. If you know that you're not talking from a place of love, and everything that I'm giving you right now, I'm not trying to gaslight you or anything like that. If I'm talking through my ego, we don't need to be talking anymore, because I'm not coming from a place of love. I'm coming from you hurt my feelings. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I ain't no punk. Like, now let's fight. That's where it's going to be, that situation. Know when you're talking from love, or if you're talking from your ego. And you can even stop the conversation, like, are we approaching this right now out of love, or are we approaching this, are our egos talking right now? And if the answer is yes on either one of those, we need to part ways until we finish this conversation. Let's
Yeah.
go. You go in that room, I go in this room, we'll figure it out later.
Yep. Yep. All right. So let's get to the third one. Our third and last tip, but we have a lot more resources for you. So don't ever
Yes.
think that we leave you empty handed. This is just the third tip. Matter of fact, you are watching the Take Back with Tiffany and Brandon. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe. We would love to have you listen to our podcast every time. We would love for you to be involved in our podcast. In season 2, we will be having people come on and interview with us. So please do subscribe and come back, share with a friend, and we will love you forever. All right,
Yes.
get back to number 3. Practice the conversation before holding the real one. And I'm gonna
I
let you
gotta
talk
jump
on this
ahead.
because you spoke on this earlier in the beginning. So what made you think of this in the beginning? Go ahead.
Because for years I didn't do it, and now I do it. And so for about maybe the first 10 years of our relationship, of our marriage, I would just come to you and say, you know what? That was my first thing, was, you know what? And that's not how you should approach someone at all. So once we got back together after our separation, I wanted to communicate with you the way that you wanted to be treated. And knowing your personality style, I was able to know that you don't hold that in well, or you don't listen to anything that I say if I approach a situation out of emotion. So I have to even weigh out my pros and cons. Also, being a Libra, I'm going to make sure that what I'm coming to you with is going to be a factual statement, but is it even the right time? Is it even worth it? So if it is worth it and those answers are yes to those questions, now I need to figure out when is the right time to hold this conversation, and how do I want to approach the conversation? Do I want us to sit back and, be in bed? Is it after intimate time? Is it, while we're eating dinner? Is it during our nightly conversations? When is the right time for me to have this conversation when I know that there could be a potential that we could butt heads? So I like to practice. I practice in the shower. I am a big talker in the shower. I will.
Yeah.
Brandon says I sound like I'm talking to myself, like I have another personality, but I play out situations in my head because I don't want to approach any type of situation the wrong way. Whether I'm doing an interview, whether I'm talking to the kids, whether I'm doing a speech, whatever. I'm going to talk it through in the shower. And that includes a conversation that I want to have with him. Okay, this is how this will go if I say this. This is how the situation will go if I say that. Okay, don't say that. Let's talk about it this way. And ever since I've been doing that, I feel like we've been effective with that. Or how do you feel that approach has been?
I think it's a good approach. For me, I more just had this conversation in my head. What I was going to ask you when I thought about this is, do you feel as if you should practice talking to somebody else, like somebody that you trust?
Yeah, it has to be somebody I trust, though. I don't want me personally, I don't like a yes man. I don't like someone that is going to say something to make me feel like I'm the one in the right. Like, let me know if I'm wrong or not. So it has to be somebody that you genuinely trust. Like for me, Treasure, shout out to Treasure. She's my girl. Her and Amber is the ones that I will go to and have my conversations with, because I know that they're not going to tell me you're right, he's wrong, whatever the case is. And you got to also feel like they're not going to go back and tell your situations to other people. So it has to be someone that you trust in order to make that effective.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's always a good thing to bring a third party into the conversation. But hey, if it is somebody who's more mature than you, they do have experience. This would be like somebody like a mentor. I think that they are a great resource to have this conversation with anytime anything like that happens. Like I know I got a couple of mentors who've been married for 30 years, 20 plus years. So whenever I have any type of different conversation that I need to have with my wife, that I'm not aware of and I need some guidance, I go to them. But I only go to them. I mean, I got a lot of friends, and a lot of those friends I won't go and have these conversations about my relationship, difficult conversations. But to the ones that I know been through it and they survived it and they thrived through it, I love having those conversations. And I think it can be a blessing to have that conversation prior to, because when you talk to that third party, you get a different perspective. Sometimes it's been times where I wanted to say some things to you, and it was like, look, don't say that to her because this is how she gonna react. And I'm like, nah, she gonna react like this. And they like, nah, not during this situation. And you gotta respect that. And when you
Right.
when you hear that, you gotta respect it, and then you gotta take heed.
Yeah.
I take heed. So yeah, practice. And if you gotta practice in the mirror to yourself, do it. If you gotta practice in your head, do it. If you gotta say it in your mind prior to it, rehearse it, do whatever you gotta do. If it matters to you, if it truly will impact your life, your livelihood, and you need to have a difficult conversation to get to the next point in your life or to get through and move forward, then do it. Just do everything you got to do in order to make it happen. Anything
Right.
else you want to talk about when it comes to that?
No, actually, we're going over time, so we try to we're gonna try to get these down to 60 minutes for you guys.
Yeah, but it really
Really
don't matter because
have
we
it.
in
We have it.
podcast land. We not on. It's no commercials. It's no TV. There's no hard stops. But you're right. We do need to get this thing down to 1 hour. But with that said, I mean that was the best way to get through difficult your difficult conversations. It's the approach, and how you start the conversation off. It's that thought process prior to having that conversation. It's the timing. The timing truly matters. Tiffany said it's the practice, getting in the mirror and practicing. And then remember, always return to the purpose. Know what you're there for. You having a difficult conversation. We're having a difficult conversation for this right now. It's not the time for you to be throwing in, hey, I was thinking about it. You remember you said, and you remember I did. Nah, it's not the time for that. Stick to the purpose of the conversation, the topic at hand. And
And
other
stay out of
than that,
ego.
and say what?
And stay out of ego.
Yeah,
Don't
stay out
come
of
from
ego.
a place of love, not from your ego.
Definitely. So for those who have taken an assessment, then you would know definitely how this works. It's best for you to take a DISC assessment or a BIRDS assessment for you to understand yourself, your personality, and what makes you tick. Once you learn about yourself, now you apply that same knowledge and learn about your partner or about your child or about your teammate, about your spouse, whatever, whoever it may be. And Tiffany, you want to give them a little more information about the DISC relationship assessment?
Yes, for this relationship assessments, this is the personal development side. We do have work development, but this one's for just for personal. This helps you understand how you are at your home life. How are you in that intimate relationship with a person? So, and then we can be able to also help put you guys together a this full relationship group report where it can show you guys compare and contrast. You may like a certain way of communication and this person may not. You may see this person struggles with something and this other person may struggle with something completely different. How do you handle stress? How do you handle tension? Where are you most effective in a certain environment? What does that provide? This relationships shows you all of that. And so I highly recommend that any couple that's either on the process of getting married, if you're doing premarital counseling or so, get an assessment, learn your spouse, and learn their do's and their don'ts. I gave this to Brandon and told him right after we got back together after our separation. Here, this is how to talk to me. Here's how to not talk to me. And he actually started using it. And now we're the best of friends. So now I think that this would be a great opportunity for relationships that's been 10 years plus or just starting off. If you really effectively want to know your relationship partner, then you want to take a DISC relationship assessment. And we have that for you guys.
Yeah, if you guys are interested in receiving a DISC relationship assessment, matter of fact, we actually have a deal going on right now where you can get 2 assessments for $100. Now, assessments are usually $149. Sometimes you can get them for $129, but right now we're doing a couples assessment right now for $100.
That's $49 a piece.
And you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation call. A free 30-minute consultation call.
Yeah.
And then another giveaway that we have, this is a giveaway. You can download our free ebook, 7 Ways to Improve Your Relationship. Tiff, tell me a little bit about the book.
Yes, 7 Ways to Improve Relationships. This kind of gives you a grasp on how to, even if you are not just struggling for your relationship, if you're wanting to elevate it and take it to the next level, these are some great tips for you to be able to keep your spark in your relationship and make it feel like a honeymoon every single day. So definitely cop that ebook. Is a checklist. It'll help you get some things started and keep the conversation going.
I love that. And lastly, not lastly, but one of the last things I want to tell you guys too is follow me. Follow me on Instagram at I am Brandon Ward Official. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on TikTok. On TikTok, we are Meet the Wards. Please follow me. I love my followers. Keep in contact. know everything that we got doing, learn everything that we got coming up, and then you might catch some pictures of me and the family, me and the kids doing some crazy fun stuff every once in a while.
Right.
And lastly, make sure you go follow Tiffany Ward at It's Me Tiffany Official. That's on Instagram. And what about your other handles, Tiff?
With Facebook, it's Facebook/ Team Brazil, and LinkedIn, all that good stuff. Yeah, that's it. I don't know. You said all the other ones already. Meet the Words Official on YouTube, and yeah, that's it. I don't know.
All right, perfect. Well, as we get ready to wrap this thing up, we appreciate you. We're praying for you. Relationships matter. Look, communication matters. Have the hard conversations. Don't disrespect one another. Just remember that you love one another, and we got to get through difficult times. Tiffany and I, we've had some difficult times. We never thought that we would ever be back together. And what happened? We right here, stronger than ever before, with a deeper love than ever, a more deeper love than ever before, and just more heart and passion. So just remember that as you go out and to be safe, to be loving, and also remember that no one wants you to win more than we do. I'm Brandon Ward, and that's Tiffany Ward. You can find us on thewementality.com and all our social media handles. Thank you guys for listening to us. Thank you for joining. We appreciate you. We love you. And we'll see you on the next one.